Hi, ahoy, mateys, and welcome. This is Varleigh at Lavender Sky Panther. And oh, yes, I got my tricorn hat on for this episode called MAST Figureheads. And if you haven't looked at my post section to see what this is going to be about, it is very ship intensive. So do look over there because I have a lot of hints and clues of, and a lot of interesting facts that I'm not going to be able to remember and impart on the show, but I've dropped them off in the post section. Some are my own, musings. Some are really interesting YouTube, videos from other channels. So do look over there, and I'm going to touch on whatever I can touch on. Hey, welcome, Rita Fita. Thanks for being there in the chat. And she says, love the hat. Thanks. I'm going to touch on a little bit of the history of that too. I had one and I had to do it because coming up in the show, and if you've looked at my shorts section of my channel, I do reference, although I don't recommend this movie for younger people, I do reference this movie, Pirates of the Caribbean #5, because in the shorts I show you there's a scene in that movie, if you don't know it, where a figurehead on a ship, a massive woman, comes to life to battle Captain Jack Sparrow, who does wear a hat like this, by the way. All right, this is supposedly actually a replica from that whole franchise. But anyway, that comes from Pirates #5, which is called Dead Men Tell No Tales. I just don't recommend that movie because it's a bit violent and gruesome in certain ways. I don't recommend it for younger audiences, and actually not much for me either in parts. But it also has a lot of comedy and action, so there you go. All right, so I'm going to start off with, I've gone this far to wear the hat, so I've got to do a very cheesy, cringy, funny joke that I did hint at in the post section. So I have a joke to start off with, and this is also helping me to loosen me up and get my speech ready for this show, because like lately, I get the gist of what I'm supposed to talk about maybe a week early. I get the title, and then sometimes a ton of information rushes in on what the show should be about and interesting facts and correlations and connecting dots. And sometimes it comes flooding in, pun intended, all in the last minute like it did this weekend. So I'm like, man, and on top of it even, the next show topic is flooding in commingled. So anyway, it's just been weird. And even on top of that, there's a water theme because every time I try to get ready for the show, something happens and I show up with wet hair. So it's definitely water element intensive on all of these lately themes that we're going to be discussing. But enough about that. And thank you, nod, wink, and acknowledgement to you, Rita. Thanks for your kind compliment. What a beautiful pirate you are. I accept. Thank you so much for your kindness. Okay, so, oops, I just gave it away. I'm a terrible person to drum up surprise. But anyway, if you saw that, you already know where I'm going with it. I wanted to start off with a little joke upon a cringy joke. And it is, well, it's been up on the site for over weeks. So if anybody looked there, you should already guessed it by now. But the question is, what type of bubblegum does Poseidon or Neptune like the most? So you know who Poseidon or Neptune is and what they're often depicted holding. So for anyone who's not US centric, you might not know it, and I don't want to put the full name up to show it to give the brand, promotion. But the answer is Trident, because there's a gum in the States called Trident gum. And as we know, Neptune, one of the symbols, or Poseidon, is holding the pitchfork-looking trident, which, by the way, spoiler alert, is a very central theme to this Pirates 5 movie. So it all kind of connects without me meaning to. All right, so we're going to get into this. MAST figureheads. I've broken up the title intentionally, a little bit of wordplay. Let me go ahead and mark the show with this. And if I seem a little all over the place and scrambling, that is going to be the nature of the show, because it's how the nature of all of the information came in to talk about today. So especially the heads part. So here we go, just to mark the show. This is what the cover ended up looking like. So we have MAST, there's an expression masthead and also figurehead. And then just the heads part standalone. This was one where I hope I held that up okay enough. That part, I'm like, well, what are we talking about heads? I don't understand why I was supposed to break that title up even into heads as some kind of code. And then voila, it really came tumbling in today as far as we're going to be talking about the heads in quotes, because they're really full-bodied statues at Easter Island. And here's just a little flash, quick little, where we're headed headed with that. Oh my God. I think the puns are going to be nonstop with this because we've got nautical, we've got where's our heading. Anyway, I'll try to hold back, but it is Saturday, and hey, this show is free 99, as I like to say, so we can do whatever we want here, right? Let's have some fun. Okay, so that being said, I want to just do a quick code drop for anybody out there. You're going to know if this is for you or if it's not. Any Titanic enthusiasts on that subject, because that's also nautical. This literally came in right after I took a shower to come here. So something about Titanic. You know, we're always shown, well, it does relate to the show because we're going to be talking about the figureheads, you know, which if you don't know it, I guess I didn't do a great job hinting at that yet. I did in the post section though, it's the part of the ship that's a figure at the front or the bow of a ship. And it can be a woman, a man, gods, goddesses, animals, whatever types of configurations. We've got mermaids, dolphins, lions, dragons, you name it. So anyway, the figureheads, it reminded me too of a flash to the scene of James Cameron's movie Titanic that everybody fawns over. It's like, oh, the romantic story of Jack and Rose. I didn't really like it other than appreciating the technology of them recreating, you know, what the ship looked like or the interior. But the storyline, even the whole thing of Titanic, I covered that on a previous live show and kind of break that down and decode it, why I don't buy the story and how, yes, I do absolutely believe that it was sunk by a U-boat, German U-boat, because only 3 years later, the Lusitania sunk that way. So I go into that in depth, take a deep dive on that one at that show. But anyway, back to it. So my little code fragment that came in, I just want to kick off with so I can drop and go and get back into the heart of the show. Oh my God, the heart of the ocean in that movie of Titanic anyway. But I must stop with bad jokes. It's just going to be one of those nights, I think. So anyway, in the Titanic, there's that scene, that epic scene where Jack and Rose are on the bow of the boat. And what is she? She has her arms open and somebody says, I'm the king of the ocean or something. Don't they do that? Anyway, we've got Celine Dion, another story there, singing the epic song in the background, right? In the soundtrack. Anyway, she's got her arms open. So what came to me was there's big code, like a secret society type code embedded in that scene. Because for me, and this could be totally wrong, this is just how I'm getting an intuitive hit on it, is that Jack is representing UK. So United Kingdom, like Union Jack, and Rose is representing France. So she even looks like she's got that classic French look, you know, kind of like this Statue of Liberty type face. And to me, that's also representing the two quote unquote rose lines, red rose and white rose, one being England, one being France, belonging to these kind of red and white rose, meaning like the different bloodlines of these secret society families. Now, I could be wrong, but I'm just throwing it out there because they came in and I'm just sharing it. Okay, now leaving that aside. Oh, and then I also have a previous show on that about the red and the white stripes of the flags and what all that can mean. And it all relates somehow. But anyway, back to our show. So we have MAST figureheads. So I guess we'll just start with the beginning here. Mastheads. What is that? Well, a lot of people confuse figureheads. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Reed. I need that validation. She says your silliness just makes the show more fun. Thank you. I hope so. This is the aim to, one, enlighten, open our eyes and ears and our hearts and open minds to what's going on in our world. Two, hopefully all of us meeting together brings up some good information, some stuff that's long been hidden, good, esoteric information that we should know, and also just to have some fun. Okay, so mastheads, a lot of people, and even myself included, when I first saw this and was looking at this topic of figureheads on the ships, I was thinking, oh, those are called mastheads, but then no, they're called figureheads. But then I'm like, well, figureheads is, expression we use is what, like a head of a state or somebody, being a figure, at the head of something, a leader. But then I'm like, oh, of course, it makes sense. There is the figure, at the head of the ship or the bow of the ship. So going back to mastheads, a lot of people do, interchange or they mean the figurehead on the bow of the ship, but they might say masthead. So just so you know that, give people a pass if they do that. Also, if magazines, the old-fashioned ones, and I guess electronic ones now as well, when you would open up a magazine and look at the first few pages, there's a blank, more or less kind of blank page with black text. and that's the masthead. So that shows you who the editors are, and it gives credits to all the people who put that magazine together or had some contribution to it. And so that's a masthead. And then in nautical terms, the masthead was at the top of the mast. And apparently, I don't know if this is true. So again, anything I might talk about, it's going to be part intuition, part stuff taken off internet. But whatever it is, I'm putting it out to all of you to use your inner truth detector to, suss it out. Does that sound right? Is that fishy? That's for you, Rita. Does it, align? Because nowadays, when we're looking at history, quote unquote, what is history? We're seeing that we've been told a lot that is not correct. And so really, why? Because now is the time for us to go inward and feel it out more than look with our eyes, because anything could have been manipulated by any number of fools, ship of fools, giving us false information on purpose so we don't awaken to the real world around us. And now it's time to go, BS, detectors up, truth detectors on, and I'm going to really feel it out. Is what I'm being told or fed making sense or not? And then start to question it and, keep questioning, keep on questioning. So in this case, I was going somewhere with it and I lost my own train of thought. So it doesn't matter. But the point is, anything I say, yeah, definitely suss it out for yourself. If you can look it up and find other information that clarifies or advances this whole little talk even further, great. And do let me know. And if you can't, if it won't take in the comment section, feel free to write me an email or whatever. I love to hear if anybody else has any like aha moments, because really I'm just here throwing some stuff out, mostly to be a springboard of, oh, okay, that was interesting for a second, or hey, I really want to investigate this further on my own, or whatever. And I'm just throwing these out, maybe even also as a catalyst to other channels. Like, oh, I didn't really look at that topic before. And if they want to take the ball and run with it and expand further, great, right? So anyway, okay, that's that. So I want to look at, first of all, let's do this. Well, okay, I have like notes as always, as per usual. Yes, I'm going to be that person, scatterbrain, jumping around. Before I go through my notes, I did remember what I was going to say. So if you are out there and you've tried to leave a comment and can't, it's not me. It's if it's a decent comment, of course, if it's something lewd and lascivious, you're out, you're blocked. But if it's a common, decent comment, then I'm not the one removing it or not allowing you to post. It's YouTube nonsensical censoring, as I say, because there's absolutely no reason for my channel for any of that to be going on, other than truths are coming out that certain individuals don't want coming out. So, but I just want to say thank you for trying if you have. And I do appreciate it, even if it won't take, because I've had some people tell me, yes, I've tried to comment, I can't. I've tried to like, I can't. So just know that, like most unsung heroes, you are appreciated. And I thank you for, being here, whether you're brand new or returning to the channel. Thank you so much. All right. So, and welcome, Sarah. Hey, Sarah, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Okay, so let's get into it. I'm going to, again, these thoughts come like a steam engine coming in here, pretty much last minute sometimes. So I'm going to try to hit all the points. So again, bear with me if it takes me a little bit to bring some of these into a way that makes sense to deliver to you. All right, well, one thought that started coming in that I didn't plan on talking about, it makes sense when talking about figureheads on the ships, is they are at the bow of the boat. So, I think if you don't know it, the bow is the front, the stern is the back, starboard is your right side, port is your left, which is interesting because we get into ports of call where these boats go, portholes, that all gets interesting. Ships by their very nature, and craft, those are both terms for nautical things, but also UFO world, correct? But anyway, the bow is at the front, and what do we think of also? Bowing down. And so some of these figures, depending on what they are, it takes on a whole different meaning based on the position of the ship. Also, if it's for good or not for good, the intent of this figurehead. So some will say, well, the figurehead, that's the spirit or the essence of the ship. And a lot of times it is bare-chested women with exposed bosom. And the official narrative is, and you're going to hear the sarcasm in my voice as you are, is that, oh, well, it's the calming energy of the mother over the seas. I think a lot of us can also get it. that not only is it just interesting for the male folk of the sailors to look at the bare-chested individual, but also I think we get into potential darker meanings, and I'm not going to spend time on those. I'm just dropping this and going like a drop and go. That there might be a benevolent intent, for some of these figureheads, but there could also be a very, very much so a dark arts intent of some of these figureheads. And if you know anything about even the lore about dark arts, what do we know? Magical things in the dark direction can be imbued into things like statues, figureheads, for example, here, and gargoyles, and on, right? So if it's a positive, it's just, okay, we want this figurehead on the ship either to calm the waters ahead of us, if we're going to go with that story, or like an example of the Viking longboats, it said that, yes, it's a fearsome looking dragon or serpent to, kind of command the seas and create fear of any would-be, harm or evil spirits to the boat. And in that case, that's another meaning. And so, can we absolutely know what the meaning is? No, unless we were like actually on the ship commanding it, or, in charge of that department of what's going on with the figurehead. We may not know for sure. However, since I brought up the Viking longboat with the dragon or serpent head, and actually it's behind me, I think you can see it. I have to look through glass to see if you can see it. We've got the, the typical, I've got one here too. This is a incense holder but the snout broke off. But that's a typical longboat with the shields along the sides, and we have a dragon or serpent in the front. Oh, and also a quick little reminder for those who like incense, maybe this is a quick little message to get some good incense, and maybe something water themed like blue water lotus. All right. And I'm not promoting any brands, just a little hint at it in case you want to go get some incense. All right. So anyway, they had, the serpents and whatever, supposedly to scare things. Now also related to that with the Viking longboats, this is not only, I saw somewhere that, it was Viking law that as you approach shore, they had to take the figureheads off of the vessel as they were going to land. Now, I heard this supposedly is Viking law, and also it shows up in the very famous artifact, the Bayeux Tapestry. And I put that in the post section early on too. I'm like, why is this coming up? The Bayeux Tapestry is like, if I remember correctly, I don't, but it's like, I don't know, I want to say like 200 feet long. It's something crazy like that. I put it in the post section, but it's this tapestry showing the depiction of a battle leading up to, 1066, with William the Conqueror and all of that. But they show these longboats coming in and going to shore. And even in that artifact in a museum, it's referencing, or you see it in the images, that the boats are coming along with the serpent head or whatever figurehead, and then as they go to land, you don't see them on the boats. Well, supposedly that's because, okay, fine and good to have something fearsome and scaring bad spirits on the ocean, perhaps, but as you come towards shore, you don't want to scare off all the benevolent land elementals and beings and create a rift there. And they didn't want to have trouble with that. So the idea was, okay, out of respect for the land beings and spirits, we take down, that fearsome head facing them. We don't want to scare them off, right? Because they wanted their good luck and fortune everywhere they went on land or sea. So I just thought that was interesting, because that's something that can be corroborated in the Bayeux Tapestry, and also over here in, Viking law, lore, or whatever it is, or if it was fact. Now, also, one little tidbit, since I am talking about the Bayeux Tapestry, that was supposedly crafted in and around 1050 AD, okay? And it's kept, or was forever kept, at a cathedral in Bayeux, France, in northern France. Now, as I was looking at that, because I was, remember, on the trail looking for these figureheads and where they first show up and where do we see them documented, this is another fun fact. Just now, literally just now, so like starting, I think, in September, like in less than in a week, the Bayeux Tapestry, after 1,000 years, plus or minus, okay, is for the first time ever, since it first landed in France, like around 1066. It is being shipped over to the UK, and I think it's going in the British Museum, if I'm not mistaken, some museum in Britain. Anyway, for the first time, France, the country, is loaning the Bayeux Tapestry over to UK, England, just for, I think, not long. and just very temporarily. And in exchange, they supposedly gave some Viking gold and treasures or whatever to be on display over in France. Now, don't you find this a little sus, as they say in modern speak? Highly suspicious. After 1,000 years, only now they're just, shipping this tapestry off. I have to do it, guys. No, we're not going to escape my jokes, my puns today. But we're going to have the Bayeux tapestry shipped off to England after 1,000 years. I don't know. That just rang all kinds of bells, going off. Red flags everywhere. Yes, those are also nautical implications with bells and flags. But the thing is that 1,000 years, what do we hear? It's like that line keeps coming through my head, like after 1,000 years of war, there's 1,000 year of peace and vice versa. And supposedly now is the time that we're coasting into, I'm sorry, doing it to myself, coasting into a whole new era of peace in a way that we have not known. Sure, we're seeing all kinds of mayhem pop up, flare up now because, as we say in the spiritual battle, evil's getting they know their time is up. And so they're going to act all kinds of crazy and burn the village on their way out. But that's in a twisted way, I know, kind of back-assward way, a positive sign that they know they're on their way out. Bye-bye, good riddance. We're going to see some nastiness flare up, but it's a sign, a good omen that they're done and they know it, So anyway, good news there, kind of good news, bad news, but it's overall good news. So why did I bring that up? I don't know now. All right, doesn't matter. So anyway, after 1,000 years, here we go, I'm back on track. After 1,000 years, this tapestry is going there. So this might be a clue for, or something of interest for some of you to look at further. In my post section, the whole Bayeux tapestry, it can be seen there. I put a video clip, a guy, I forget what country he's from, but he did a nice job of just slowly, he shows you the tapestry and just slowly slides it along so you can follow. And he just calls out in English the highlights, because there's little chapters as it's stitched into the tapestry that he'll just say, oh, this is this scene and this is when Harold does this and whatever. So if you really want to get into it, that's just one little intro. And then if you want to dig further, go ahead. I think there's a very massive clue there and a very interesting springboard topic for something else. Right now, I don't know what that is. If it comes back around again, okay, we'll look at it. But if not, it might be just something for you to go look into. Okay, now back to our figureheads. So also in the post section, as I mentioned earlier, you have, if you can think of it, there's probably a figurehead of it, as far as an image. And I also had a little, I had a riddle, riddle me this. I had a riddle out there, a little question, like a quiz. If anyone could name what this figurehead is, what famous figurehead this one is, and it's a she, and what the name of her ship is. So nobody kind of responded in the not in the chat, in the post section. So I'll go ahead and tell you. She is from the Bounty. So there's a movie they did about the famous supposed, mutiny on the Bounty. HMS Bounty was the ship. And she was, I think, some people call her just like Miss Bounty, but she actually came from different ship names. So the ship was renamed to the Bounty. Supposedly the Royal Navy purchased the ship. So the ship before it was renamed the Bounty was called the Bethia. Or Bethia, I think it's Bethia. So that was supposedly her name. And so she's in a fully head to toe, like horse riding cloak and riding outfit and the hat. So it's one of the few where we don't see the bare chested woman on the ship. And that's refreshing. So as a woman, I'm tired of seeing all of this exploitation. And that gets back to, I'm calling it exploitation because gets back to what is the meaning of the figurehead. So again, the story was, a woman and with her bosom, it's like the mother energy and she's going to calm the seas in front of us. Again, I'm not truly buying that, because what do we know if it's the dark arts side of things? There's the ritualization, there's the humiliation and the shaming, especially of the female. And how they do that often is, exposing the breast or one of them. You'll see that in Hollywood. People call it Holly weird for good reasons now. But in dark Hollywood, they have the people parading on their openings or their award shows. What are they doing? They're walking on a red carpet. There's a lot of heavy, serious energy and code into that, of why it's a red carpet and what that energy is doing. But also, especially in recent years, it's pretty disgusting. And I'm not going to harp on this, but they have the celebrities as an act of demonstrating that they're putting their allegiance, or like they're signing their souls out. They have the females. It's always like they're about to go on, and then somebody gives them a last minute costume change, and it's like this total see-through net thing, or just totally exposing their chest. And that's a shaming ritual, and that's also showing that they're going to submit to whatever evil forces, whatever they're doing. So you'll see that a lot, and it's pretty disgusting. And we know it's a shaming ritual too, and totally inappropriate, because these are shows that are broadcast, like casting a spell out to families. Little children shouldn't be seeing this. They're trying to normalize the sexualization and, kind of putting the female down. Also, this is a little side note. We know this too, because it's the kind of the shaming of the female. And again, it's like one breast exposed or two as a part of this. Also because in every case, these dark arts kind of people, or, entities or secret societies, are always trying to put the woman down because they know how powerful she is. And when I say woman, we can also be talking about divine feminine and divine masculine. And the idea is that, no one should be shaming or humiliating either, feminine or masculine. It's our combined harmony, of course, that makes everything great and work. But mainly it's trying to put the woman down, because why? She is the womb, men. So she has the womb, and that's not only a sacred chamber, the place of all creation to bring through life here physically, but it's also the place that the God spark comes in. And talking about imbuing figures benevolently, that's the God spark coming into us. And then she is the portal. It's all very nautical, that releases us into the world. And what do we know about us as embryos? We are liquid breathers. We are breathing water, so to speak. And then we come out and breathe air. So there's such an alchemy and a magic through this, through and through. So in a strange way, we're tying the feminine in with the ship. It's being tried to be put down. However, it won't be. But it's just, just some things that I'm toying with. Because again, anytime the naked breast, you can say, oh, but it's a celebration of the feminine. I think, mostly it's put in there to do the opposite. But anyway, that's just depends on how you want to look at it. Now, that brings into the reason why I started even thinking about that too, is like, how are these figureheads being used for good or for evil? Is with the christening ritual. We talk about rituals, right? So in modern times, what do? They take a bottle and they strike the bow, right? Now, supposedly, if it smashes and the liquid goes everywhere, that's going to be good fortune. And it's usually champagne is used, or wine. And what do we know? If somebody strikes it and it doesn't break, then that's supposedly a bad omen for that ship. Now, supposedly, why are these people doing this? Usually it's well-to-do people, the sponsors of the ships, that get to do that. Supposedly it's somebody who really matters in the, what do I want to say, like the formation of the ship or its journey, like the godmother or the godfather of the ship gets to do it, because supposedly they're also imparting or imbuing part of their soul and energy to the spirit of the ship. Okay. Now, supposedly, why is that still a ritual? Why is that even a thing? Well, supposedly even before the champagne and the wine, there were in certain cultures, and I don't know if this is true, but animals sacrificed to the ship for, the gods, for a safe journey, blood sacrifices, so that now they're replacing that with the symbolism of the spilled wine or champagne. Now, I also have my own questions, and again, I don't want to go dark on the show, but I'm just going to hint at it. I also wonder too if some of these voyages, well, some in some of the things I was reading, it did say that they were basically, trafficking people on these ships, and so there's a whole aspect of that too. But I'm not going to go there. Okay, not deep anyway. That was it. So let's see what else. I talked about the tapestry. Give me a moment here. I'm trying to catch up with it because I didn't even look down at my notes. We're doing pretty well though. Okay. Now, also talking about, before I get into some pop culture references and movies and things, when looking at some of the ships, it's one thing to have a figurehead, so a carved animal or figure, nicely painted. And actually, I should probably hold up my slides. I only have 2 this time. Here we go. I'll hold up some examples, and I did put these already in the what do you call it, in the post section or what have you. I'm going to hold this a little bit further back because I wanted to put my cute little glass, fairy light thing in the front, but when it's there, I can't quite see my. Let's see. I can't see my slides as well through it, but anyway, we'll give it a try. Okay, I can see this way. So we'll start over here. You can get the gist. It's also in my post section. So this is a figurehead, just, affixed to a wall. A lot of people use them as decorations now too in restaurants or houses or whatever. I thought she was just fun. I had to include her because she's holding a whole thing of lavender. And she has a flower, crown, also with the lavender. Then we get into, some of these mythical, I don't want to say creatures, but she's got her wings. I'm not sure who she's supposed to be, but the gods and goddesses are represented. And then we have Neptune, and there's like a little, another little guy, grabbing onto his leg. And then we have this one was actually supposedly recently discovered in a shrimper's net. So guys that were out on the ocean doing shrimping found this in their nets. And supposedly that is an oak carved figurehead, or they think he also might have been on the bow, and he is a Frisian a Frisian character. So from Friesland, I think, is up north, like one of the northernmost islands toward the Arctic Ocean, I believe, if not mistaken there. So, and then we get the typical mermaid. And then we have like a sunburst, and then another woman figure. And then some of these figureheads were known people, and others were just allegories for different things, right? And gods and goddesses, things of that nature. Okay, so let's see where that takes us. Okay, I guess. So we talked about the Viking longboats, and we talked about some of the ships from like the golden era of shipping from whence this tricorn hat comes. And I want to read about that if I can find it quick enough on my notes here. If not, I'll move on to the next topic. But I just wanted to cover I found it. What are the golden ages of these ships? And I'm talking about these high, tall sailed ships. Cutty Sark is one of the ships some of you might know. I think it's on an alcohol label, Cutty Sark, with these top sails, these big, huge ships. And actually on that ship, I put it in the post section, the figurehead on that one, because I did ask the question, what's the most famous figurehead of all time on these ships? And Cutty Sark was one that came up, and there's a museum that has it suspended, and it has skylights on either side, so you can walk under it even. But that one the figurehead is called Cutty Sark, and it's a witch. So there's a poem written, a very lengthy poem actually, but the gist of it is that this farmer is observing these witches, and I don't know if they're at a tavern or something. It seems like always alcohol, the drink, is involved in these stories with ships, right? And pirates and whatever. But anyway, he somehow is observing this woman who he thinks is absolutely beautiful, and it's this witch, and her name is Nanny. And so he yells out like, "Well done," and this is a terrible accent, please forgive me, Cutty Sark, because he sees her, and she looks at him and then is on the rampage, chases after him, turns like into this like ugly grimace, angry face, and is chasing him as he's riding off on his horse. Now, Cutty Sark is, I think, a Scottish term for just kind of like almost probably a barely there kind of short slip, that a woman or person would wear, undergarment. So anyway, she's hauling ass after him, after the horse and him. And supposedly she grabs after him, but only, and sorry for any horse lovers, but animal lovers, but the story goes that she grabs onto the horse, but just grabs its tail, and the tail rips off with her. So anyway, the Cutty Sark, you'll see the figurehead, she's like reaching, and there's something weird. It looks like seaweed, but it's supposed to be the tail. Okay, so that's that story of maybe the most well-known. I would argue also that the one off of the Bounty, like the movie, there's lots of like 50s movies, I think, showing the mutiny on the Bounty. One has Marlon Brando in it, a very controversial Marlon Brando in it. But anyway, that's, from that ship. Oh, and sorry if you see my Band-Aid, I totally injured my knuckle before coming on. So that's what that's about. Okay, now what else? Oh, so we talked about that. Let me read the golden era of these high sails, these big high sailed ships. I'm going to just read a little tidbit here. And then we're going to slowly get into our heads section with Easter Island, Rapa Nui, and all of that. So here, this is just straight from the internet, just a basic thing. So again, take it or leave it, really question it, whatever I'm reading. But it says, it's just for point of reference that we at least all have a common point to talk about some of this stuff. So the big high sailed ships known as tall ships, clipper ships, and massive iron or steel windjammers flourished primarily during the Age of Sail, spanning from the 16th to the mid-19th century, with their absolute peak in size and cargo speed occurring during the second half of the 19th century and early 20th century. And then they just do a little summary here of key eras of large sailing ships. They say the age of discovery and expansion, 16th to 17th centuries. Large square-rigged galleons and armed merchant vessels dominated global exploration and trade routes. Then we have the golden age of sail, late 17th to early 19th centuries, featured prominent military ships of the line and early global trade networks. Then they talk of the clipper ship era, 1840s to 1860s, extremely fast, sleek, high-masted composite ships designed to carry time-sensitive cargo like tea and passengers before steamships took over. And then we have the windjammer era, 1870s to 1910s, massive iron and steel-hulled merchant sailing ships, barks, and full-rigged ships built with 3 to 5 masts to haul bulk cargo globally until commercial sailing finally ended. So again, maybe there's something in there that piques interest for some of you to look into further. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to hit those little facts before we continue. Okay, so we talked about what are these tall ships, high sails, and all of that. What are the Viking longboats? And then, there's also so many ships throughout history. If you really start digging around, you'll find different kind of mastheads everywhere. I also posted one of the earliest ones found, and earliest meaning 800 AD. We know there's ships that go back 3,000 plus years that also had them. But in 800 AD for the Vikings, they have the whole Viking ship actually in a museum, and they have the figurehead, which is a serpent. I have that in the post section to show you there if you want to look at that further. Now, as far as going back 3,000 years and more, we have the Egyptian ships. And, there's actually, I haven't been there, but supposedly in Cairo, near one of the big pyramids, they have they uncovered, I think on the north side, if I'm not mistaken, of one of those pyramids, they uncovered a whole buried, ship. And I think that's on display somewhere there in their museum there somewhere. But anyway, back in that vintage of ship, it was customary to put paint or get marble inlay and create an eye, like the symbol of the eye, and put it on the ship. So again, it's the idea of, even with the figureheads, that you've got eyes on the water. Also, it was another meaning for the figureheads was like, forget about all the other symbolism I was talking about, but also the eyes. It had eyes on the water that could see the way, kind of that kind of symbolism. So with these Egyptian ships, there were actual eyes, painted, also on some of the Greek ships and et cetera. Now, what I found interesting, and I've put this video, and I'll give the guy full credit when I'm done here, I'll put it in the description area. I can't remember his name offhand. But in looking around at figureheads, this one guy found a quote from the Odyssey. Now, coincidental, that movie, very controversial movie in the woke sense is out now. I'm not going to go see it, but anyway, I want to read this quote that this one person found from the text, the Odyssey, not the movie. And I found this very interesting. And I think there's a real there's a real story here. And again, this might be for one of you out there to look into further. I don't know that it will become, I'm trying to, get it to where I can read it, a topic in a future show, but you never know on my channel. So let me read this quote that he found. It says, for the Phaeacians. Okay. It says, for the Phaeacians, which I don't know if that's supposed to be Phoenicians, have no pilots, no steering oars such as other ships have, but the ships themselves understand the thoughts and minds of men, and they know the cities and rich fields of all peoples, and the gulf of the sea they cross most quickly, hidden in mist and cloud, nor ever have they fear of damage or shipwreck. So he's describing in this Odyssey the ships that are navigated by these, it says Phaeacians. Again, I don't know if it's supposed to be Phoenicians, and I need to do my homework. I have not read the Odyssey. I'm tempted to. I'm not just going to go watch the movie. I want to see the original text. But anyway, in this description, it's implying that there are ships that these people are observing, that they seem to just be guided by, connecting like telepathy. This is what he's saying. I mean, this is what the quote says. And that they're just guided by understanding the thoughts of man. And they know where all the cities are and all the people. And that they're just drifting, gliding across the Gulf in the mist and cloud. And they have no fear of wrecking or damage. So that implies these things are hovering or flying. So I just saw this right before coming on. So this quote just lit up all kinds of things for me, because I'm like, they're talking about either a hover technology or they're talking UFOs, craft that show up in a mist, which what do we know about UFOs? They can camouflage. They can generate their own micro atmospheres to camouflage. And look how many movies show these like UFOs showing up and they create their own mist. Even in, I didn't see the movie, and spoiler alert, I just saw the very end in a YouTube thing, but Cocoon. Supposedly at the very end, I guess these beings are trying to get back home, and there's other people out on the ocean observing that it's all this mist and whatever, and it turns out a craft is coming to take their ET beings home. These imageries are always shown also, like in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, when the ship comes down, it's like a storm and turbulence is happening around it, and it's all used as camouflage. Plus, it's literally probably disturbing the atmosphere. And again, this is a no fear here channel. So when I talk about this, it's just being objective, like these things can happen. And I've been documenting them for over 6 years. So this is why I'm just throwing this in there. And also because it wanted to come up. So anyway, back to it. You'll see if you look up any imageries of old Egyptian ships or Greek ships, they have, the eyes painted on the side. So there's a lot more to that, of what, the eyes represented, and, more than just seeing the water or scaring off evil. And like I said, there's like a real there, but I'm going to stop it right here. That's as far as I'm going to go with it. Okay, now movies. Let's get to movies of the ships. I already showed you with the figureheads. I already showed you that Pirates of the Caribbean #5 shows the figurehead of this woman. And Captain Jack Sparrow, of course, he's, a real character in and of himself, causing trouble. And all of a sudden, he's looking at the profile of the neighboring enemy ship. And he's like almost face to face or head to head, neck and neck with this figurehead. He looks over, and then all of a sudden, the figurehead turns and breaks away from the ship and goes after him. So that was just interesting. Then also another figurehead scene, I put it in my shorts section, is from the movie, very heavy Illuminati on purpose. I mean, they're self-proclaimed in this whole freaking movie with all the Freemasonry and everything. They show it in your face. The first one, National Treasure. In this movie, one of the opening scenes, they show the figurehead of a ship called the Charlotte, which got covered up and buried in the Arctic Ocean somehow. So anyway, those are just two movies that came to mind when I was going to be doing this, figurehead topic that, just kind of flashed in my mind to mention. I'm sure there's plenty of others. I thought there was appearances of it in the movie, The Mutiny on the Bounty. It might be, I didn't see the whole movie. I was just looking at whatever excerpts from that movie I could find. I think it was from the 50s. Okay, so now those are just a couple movies. Now museums. There are museums dedicated to just holding all of these figureheads, as many, that they could acquire. I think in Greenwich and in other places. I put, I think, a link in my post section. They just have all these figureheads that you can look at. And there's also some in some really kind of remote areas. So I never heard of this. Somebody, I think it was like a comment that somebody had made on Reddit or one of those things when I'm like scanning to look for anything about figureheads. And there's a whole museum dedicated to them on an island called, I think it's pronounced Scilly. So Scilly. It's an island of the UK. And I had never heard of it. So it's, I think, far south of England. And anyway, have a look around there too at one of the links I provided. Okay, I think we will move on into the heads portion of the show. And before I do, is a little segue, and I do have a few points to talk about this. When we get to Easter Island or Rapa Nui, I invite you to look at my post section, because there I put a map of where Easter Island is. It's also called Rapa Nui. It's on the eastern edge of Polynesia. So it sits off, if you go straight west of Chile in South America, and you go bearing out toward the Pacific Ocean, toward Polynesia, you will see Easter Island is the eastern boundary, of Polynesia. And then to the west and south, you have there's a Polynesian triangle. So you have Hawaii, the islands up there. To the north is one of the points of the triangle, and then Rapa Nui to the east, and then down to the west and south is New Zealand. And so they're calling that the Polynesian Triangle. Now, I put that in the post section right before coming on my show. I have like 9 maps showing you the shape of Easter Island and, where it's located. But this is setting up for next week's show, weirdly, in a very fascinating way. It's going to tie into manta rays and stingrays and island shapes, and even UFOs. Is going to get very interesting next week. But anyway, this is like our first stepping stone to get there. Oh, God, that pun was not intended on that one. Okay, because we're talking about the stone heads. So here we go. Rapa Nui or Easter Island. I do invite you to look at the post section. I would keep referring there, but it's a way that I can dump a lot of information without creating slides, which takes a lot of time. So just before coming on here, I was reminded of the 1970s, 1977 in June, an episode on In Search of, a TV show in the United States, at least. I don't know how far spread that show was hosted by Leonard Nimoy. Now, if you are a quote unquote starseed, or a person that has arrived on this planet about my age or younger or older, and you know that home feels like somewhere that's not quite here, and you know that there's much more to this world than that would be told and sold, you might be a starseed. But anyway, we're the ones that have come onto this earth. It's what the Hopi refer to, that we're the ones we're waiting for to wake this world up from the inside. Like we're like the inside job to overthrow this matrix and oppressive, kind of world, and bring it and restore it back to a more loving world going forward. That's what I mean when I'm talking about starseed. And yes, starseed means you may have multiple galactic ties, family, roots, DNA, however you want to call it. But anyway, this show came out for, I believe, as like a wake-up call for us starseeds coming, because In Search of, this episode about Easter Island came out, like I said, it was June 1977. Star Wars came out May 1977. So to me, all of these were kind of like embedded and encoded, code in some of these movies, because whoever, this big game spiritual battle knew that kids like us at that time were going to be totally grabbing on to this esoteric stuff. So the reason why I'm mentioning this is I first even heard about Easter Island. I didn't know it was called Rapa Nui, the native name. I just heard it was Easter Island, and what we were told in that 70s show, again, was total propaganda. As I put in my post section, do look at this one. I put a thing on it with the In Search of, the original program link. So in there are mistruths, half-truths, totally, red herrings, anything you can name that's false in there was told. But there's like always, there's like a smidgen of truth in there. So this next portion of the show, and I won't make it lengthy, but what I'm hinting at is, as I move into this part about the show, really look at what we've been told and what we've been sold in history about this place, and really challenge your own critical thinking, have an open mind. As I was watching this In Search of show anew, I was listening and I'm just going, oh man, okay, that's not right. That's not right. Oh my God. And I think even as a kid, as I listened to it, I'm like, okay, I'm fascinated about this heads thing. Like what's going on there? How they do that, how they move them. What is this? But then even when I'm listening to him, I'm like, something doesn't add up. Just back then, even as a little kid, my truth detector was going like, something isn't right. Now, also keep in mind, in that show, I loved like the concepts. They'd bring up all these like cool places on Earth and things like Bigfoot, and they'd bring up the Coral Castle in Miami, like how this guy built it, and fascinating stuff, right? But I hated the music. and I mean, I know hate's a strong word, but I did. The soundtrack of In Search Of, it's like this like awful frequency. So there's another like hint there. It was just jarring. And then as they're telling you in the information, I believe that was by design, kind of a little bit of a brainwashing thing, kind of disturbing your field one way and trying to implant information another. But I don't want to get too deep with all this, so I'll leave it at that. But the point is, that's the first place I would have heard of Easter Island or the heads. I think if I didn't see it on In Search Of back in those days, another way this information would have come through with, I think, a lot of households in the United States was through that monthly subscription of National Geographic, right? And there's so much propaganda in there too. Think, mistruths told by the Smithsonian, et cetera. It's kind of all in that same club. But anyway, on a happier note, let's get into this. So this section of the show, I'm just inviting all of us, myself included, just right in this moment, I'm trying to open up and just feel it out. What is the truth about Easter Island and these heads? So what we know about this island is, and I don't know how much you know, I just was discovering stuff left and right in the last 2 days, is I'll show you, one more time. So we've got these heads. Oh, and in my post section, I posted this drone. It's something that says drone coverage of Easter Island. Do watch that video. It's a guy who's a local who did an incredible documentation of the whole island with the drones. It's really good. But anyway, we know that we have these huge heads, and some are almost like completely buried. Some are poking out. Some show the chest. They're in different states of leaning back and forth. In recent years, I say recent because it's probably since the 20s, a lot have been propped up. And some have been, set aright, not in their original found condition. And they're trying to restore. Some are getting, eroded or whatnot. But here, if you look at it, I found this more interesting. One of the famous images that I have in my post section, I don't have it here, is like 7 or 15 of these huge figure statues set next to each other, on the shoreline. But what I didn't realize is there are up to 1,000 of these heads. I think the official count is 890 something and climbing, so they think there's at least 1,000. So there are 1,000 of these heads, not just this neat little line on the shore, and that's it. They're everywhere, and they're in different states, of coming. Looks like some are coming down the mountain. There's some up at the top of the crater. There's some craters, and they're just laying flat there. What I also found very interesting, again, just as I was coming on the show, so you might want to look further on your own, is I saw an account of that there were different stages of quote unquote carvings of these things. So like toward the rim of the crater, there was one that was more like an embryo or a young little giant, and one was, different stages of ages of these, what they're calling carved statues of giants. So now they're giants because what do we know in recent years? It's not just heads or torso, chest. These are full giants as far as, full on, head to toe. These aren't just heads. And so some, I meant to get the fact on it. I don't have it. I know some are more than 30 feet tall. I think there's some that are 60 feet tall. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. You might want to look at what's the tallest one there. So we're talking massive. Now, we are being told to believe, if you want to follow the narrative, which I don't, that these were carved with simple tools, rock on rock, to carve these. Now, if you look at the precision of some of these things, you will see that there's no way they're carved with just some rock on rock. Now, also, these aren't like heavy duty, hard, basalt rock. A lot of them, they talk about just being kind of a volcanic an ash composite. So that implies that, anyway, it wouldn't be as hard as they're saying, but still, if you have something softer, they got really like machine precision edges on here. Now, seeing as where they are all over the island, and when you look at where they are in the topography, like a lot of them seem like they're coming down the hill, I think we get into a home, and here's the face of another one here. And each face is different, supposedly, And this is the back of one. So here's the back of the head and the back of the neck and the back of the back. And I'm going to just hold something up with my phone to show somebody drew the detail. There's so much detail in the back of these things. Now I'm going to go there. Something just is nagging at me today when I was looking at this information. I think those are real people that got petrified. Just going to say it. Now I know their faces look a little stylized and everything, but seeing how they're so kind of haphazard all over the island, and I put it in the post section. I have a map showing where all of the figures are. And the way that some are faced inland, some are faced out towards sea. I don't know. I just get an overwhelming sense that maybe these are somehow actual people that got petrified. And I'm going to go even further and make a much more outlandish claim next weekend, because my next topic already superimposed dropped over this one. And we're going to get into that more of why I think that. Sorry, I'm just looking for an image to elaborate on here. But all that we know that we see that's coming to the forefront about other regions of the world where people are talking about giants laying down petrified that are whole mountain ranges and things. I think, the truth is lighting up in all of our hearts, that there's a lot to this about petrified giants, right? And when we look at the lore and we talk about these epic battles of giants falling down and being crushed by these Greek heroes, and like the one that I just talked about, I think last weekend, being under Mount Etna as a giant, I mean, we're converging now in a time where lore and reality, we're getting to the real truth of everything that has been like literally buried, like these, heads seem to be buried. But anyway, let me get back to it. I want to find, if I can't find it quick enough, I'll have to go to my channel and look it up there. Oh, here we go. So that image I just showed you of the back of one of those buried heads, look at my post section. Let me see if there. Look at all that detail. Like there's a rope around the waist and there's a lot of stuff happening on the back. Also look up at the head. Can't reach, but see that? Those are ears. And that becomes important too, because supposedly these figures have very long earlobes. And some of the lore on the island is that there was some kind of a battle between these giant figures with the long lobes, and they were fighting, or slaves with short lobes were uprising against them. So that's what I'm saying. Let's look at this with new eyes, new heart, open mind, open heart. What was going on that island? So did we have not only giants, but also like minis, like us size? They talk about some of the inhabitants lived in lava tubes there. I think there's so much to this to look at new. I don't know who was who in this scenario. All I can do is invite you, as I show you some of the pictures or look at my post section, really feel into these figures. Try to ditch the mind for a minute. Do the figures feel good? Do they feel positive, negative? How do they feel? In no case do I think they were carved just with a simple rock, hitting it. There's just no way. And also, current narrative will say that they were moved. What's the old story with ropes and some kind of pulley system with ropes or lever system, or they got timber and rolled them to where they are? I'm not buying it. Look at how they're like frozen, like literally. It's like they got caught unawares as they're going down the hill, or they're fleeing. And the more you look into these, sorry, there's stuff all over the internet. The more you look into these, it's like you can just see the different positions. Now, forget about the time or not, or time ravaging them. You can just see they're all in different kind of stances and different positions. And it was like they're like fleeing from the top of the crater down toward the shore is what I see. But I think too that there's just, I'm gonna read some of your comments. You guys have some good comments. Not only does it seem like they were caught like in between, in an in-between moment, but also like all the sediment on them, like, I don't want to name names because I have zero credence for these people. I don't want to give them any credit. But some of like, the people that are on TV, who's puppeteering them, right? These archaeologists or whatever, will say, oh, it just, they got buried over time in like, 60 feet of sediment. Yeah, I call bullshit. This is a sudden event. And so you can call it a flood or a mud flood, or the Mahabharata, the Indian texts will talk and tell you balls out about a alien war, with technology that wasn't had on the surface world, but came from the sky. I think something like this happened too. Yes, I'm talking direct energy weapons too. The way these statues are described as being like a composite of volcanic ash, is reminding me of some images that I've seen on some YouTube footage, direct footage from Lahaina, from Maui, of the recent quote unquote fires there being direct energy weaponed. Because I saw it, fresh when those fires happened, those, in the last few years. I saw this firefighter was going around documenting what he was seeing. And yes, his stuff got yanked off the internet, but before it did, I saw it. And there was a, and I'm sorry, this is a little bit gruesome. I'll try to make it as, Christmas friendly as I can, but G friendly, but I'll make it quick. But there was a cat on the side of the road, and it was just like petrified ash. It looked like a full intact cat, but like if you touched it, it would have just crumbled. And that's what it reminds me of. Pompeii reminds me of this here at Rapa Nui. And I think we are dealing with some other off-world tech. Now, off-world can be outer galactic. It can be something from inner Earth. It can be interdimensional, just popping in. I don't know how it all works, but I just know that we, as Sugar C says, she says, I get a lot of warring vibes. Yeah, warring, but who's fighting whom and where are they coming from? And what technology do they have? So in this case, I very much get a vibe that this was under attack, and these folks were fleeing. Now, petrified, how could they be petrified to look like machine chiseled perfect? Don't have the answer for you on that one. That's why I'm putting this out to all of you. Again, this is just like thoughts that I'm having, that I know that I'm just one piece and all of you, each of you are another piece. So we can put all this together. But I do believe firmly, I'm getting vibes that these are actual people that were somehow petrified. And why do I say that? Because also some of the local lore or island indigenous lore is that there was mana associated with these statues. And what is mana? Mana is life force. And mana is like a Polynesian term for it. Other societies use it. Also in video games, current video games right now, you'll hear kids playing and they're talking about, oh, mana here, mana there. Mana is very much on the forefront of an interesting pop cultural reference and topic. And so the folklore or lore, indigenous lore of this island was that there was something very important about the eyes. Now, some of this, the statues, I'll just say loosely because I think they're actual beings. Some have their eyes shut and some have their eyes open. So this story, the plot thickens on this whole island because supposedly the ones that are lined up like toy soldiers along, 1111, nice. I'm going to get to you guys. Thanks for being there and commenting. As you have those supposed statues along the shore, those are facing one way. It depends on what area of the island too that you're looking at the groupings of these statues, because one area, and I put it in the post section, I forget the name of it, but on one area there's like 7 full-size statues standing by the shore, and I think they're facing the ocean, but they are in celestial alignment with the solstice somehow, and they face the ocean one way and then their backs are turned, so for fall and spring it works somehow, I don't know, or summer winter solstice, I guess. But anyway, the other ones are equinoxes. But anyway, they're aligned with winter, summer solstice somehow. But that's just one little strip that they say might be a celestial alignment. But all the other ones, there's some other figures standing along the shore, and they say that they are facing inland. And there might be others that are facing toward the water. So we get into all these discussions, like the base discussion is, they're looking out toward the water to protect the island, or, they're looking inward, for various other reasons. So I don't know. I think the ones that are looking out and up, there's just a vibe with they're waiting for someone, or they're looking out for someone. And I don't know if it's that they're looking at the warring party coming in, or they're looking for help, or what. But it just feels like a longing and a waiting. Just as Sugar C says, it also feels like a warring vibe. Now, when I get into the topic for next weekend, I'll give a little teaser because it just showed up now, right before the show. Look at the shape of the island. And I just put it in the post section right before I came on. And you know what? This is worth me going over there real quick to bring it to your attention, because it's a crossover between this topic right now and next week, which I never in a million years thought I'd be hitting. But let me show you something real quick, because I think it is so worth it. Oh, okay. So if you go to my post section, you're going to see this. First of all, I put up a map. These are where those individuals are standing, and there's over 1,000 of these so-called sculptures. okay, all over the island. So that's worth looking up. Also, I want to show you, well, I might as well show you, okay, where it is in the ocean. Okay, so if it'll, there we go. Sorry about the glare. Okay, so you see there's like an arrowhead shape, that lighter shading, all the way to the arrowhead part. Sorry, I can't really point. Is Easter Island, it's at the far side of that. Sorry about that. And then it flares out toward New Zealand and Hawaii. So that's called the Polynesian Triangle. So that's just where Easter Island's located, on that far eastern edge, as I mentioned earlier. I just wanted to show you as I'm getting there. And this is going to come up next week. But what I want to show you is, look at the shape of the island. Okay, this is kind of a weird topographical map, but it clearly shows it's a triangle. And look at those 3 points. There's craters with fresh water in there. But when you look at the overall shape, and this is just a little heads up of where we're going, heads up intended to pun there, heads up. Look at this. Somebody, did just an overlay of, tracing around it. And I'm just bringing this up because I'm going to argue further that overall thing is what we're looking at is probably a ship, a UFO craft under there. Why am I saying that? Because as a part of my research on these heads, and again, the way they're kind of running down out of the openings, maybe we're looking at beings coming out of a ship that was under attack. And I'm just saying that because some of the people investigating the island talk about, like, the northern side has got this weird magnetic field that makes instruments go crazy. And also there's other areas of the island where you go and batteries are drained out like this, like nothing. So that's telling you there's something big, massive happening in there that's magnetic to throw all of that off. So could it be a huge craft that's like an island-sized craft? I totally think it's possible. You look at movies like The Abyss, again, a James Cameron movie. I mentioned Titanic at the very beginning. He also did that movie. He's got his mitts on some esoteric knowledge, secret society kind of knowledge. And that in that movie, spoiler alert, I think it was from 1989, in The Abyss, toward the end of the movie, what happens? An entire ship comes up out of the ocean. It's the size of an island, So I think, again, we're getting these hint drops everywhere. I think there's a lot of there with this whole story. Now, again, this literally just came up on my radar maybe 2 hours before doing the show. Like, all this stuff starts coming in. So I don't have everything put together. But I think it's on purpose, because this is a joint effort of me sharing with you, and all of you maybe going off and thinking about it. And I don't know, or you find another piece here or there, and it starts to put this puzzle more beautifully together for all of us, So anyway, just look at the shape. I mean, it's a triangle. And I think then that also brings in more hints about what is the Bermuda Triangle, what is the Polynesian Triangle, and on and on and on. And that's going to come up in the next show. And also, because in the next show, some of you were kind enough to say, yeah, we'd like to hear more about manta rays and stingrays, and what are the shape of those. And I think that's the message of why the manta ray came up to me recently, was a hint at the triangles. Okay, so but I'll save that for the next show, because that's going to be a lot of fun. So anyway, the magnetic properties, things making instrumentation go buggy on this Easter Island. And I think in some of the caves is where the batteries just got zapped. So is there something under this whole thing? What is the story here? So for right now, if I have to put a little pin in it, I'll say, okay, I think this was a race of giants, and there was a war going on, and battle came from the air, and they were trying to flee. And I don't know if they were all on an island-sized craft or what, but obviously I think we're looking at a moment in time that froze in whatever this scene is. And I think we'll probably get to more of what was going on in the next show. But what I want to say too is it still was intriguing me. Why do we have a story about the ones that had the long earlobes, which are clearly shown in those statues? Again, I'll use that loosely, statues, but versus the short earlobed ones. And also something about the eyes. So were those figures lined up along the shore, their eyes open to try to, I don't know, emit some kind of energy to stop what was going on and save the people, or what? But something's there with the eyes and the power and the mana and the life force, because the lore of the island is that those statues aren't just like statues. There's a life force. They are the ancestors. And there's also a big deal. They're not happy, the islanders, that supposedly, and I would agree, that, one of those statues is in the British Museum. I've seen it in the lobby, one of the quote unquote statues. And that they've been carted off to different places. Well, I'd be pissed if that were my ancestor that's just now standing in the lobby of someone's museum. If they belong to the island, it's a sacred thing, right? It's like kidnapping, if you think about it. Oh, and I also forget to mention one more movie, and then I want to get to the comment section. One more movie that I put in the post section. I don't like what they did in the treatment of it's called, and I didn't even say it, the statues or the heads are called the moai. So MOAI, however you want to pronounce that. So the moai, the statues, there's a scene I put in the in the post section. It's a little clip from the movie, supposed, comedy, A Night at the Museum. And in the lobby, they have one of these big moai standing there. And it comes to life at night. And again, little spoiler alert, because there's a magic Egyptian tablet that brings the dead to life at night. Anyway, it included the statue. And I just didn't like the depiction. I didn't mind that they animated it, brought it to life, but they make it sound like a total idiot. So anyway, but I put it there just for cultural reference. Okay. So I think that's it for now. I mean, I threw enough out there, but I want to look at the comment section. I didn't mean to neglect anybody there. So again, welcome everyone. And everyone's saying hello to everybody. And thank you. Rita was laughing at one of my probably really cringy jokes. Thank you. Sugar Seas, welcome. She says, nice tricorn hat. And Rita says the head called Paro is the tallest statue at 32.63 feet, according to internet search. LOL. I hope that info helps. Thanks. Yes, I was asking. I didn't remember offhand what the tallest statue was. So if they're saying it's around 32 something feet, that makes sense. But I could have sworn there was one taller. But anyway, that's fun work, not homework for anybody if you want to look further into that. And I mentioned Sugar Seas welcome. She got a lot of warring vibes, happening on the island. She says, I agree 100% with some of the stuff I was saying. Rita too says 100%. Oh, Rita's saying to Sugar Seas 100%. And Sugar Seas says old tech for sure. And Roxy girl, hey, welcome. Came in on 11:11. That's powerful. Thanks for being here. And yeah, so hi, all back and forth. So I love that there's so much love in the chat. That's awesome. Okay, well, I'm looking at the time. I mean, I could be here much longer. I don't know how much all of you have, but I think that's about all I had. I hope I didn't leave anything huge out. If I did, it's in my post section, and I'll put it in the description area below. For crystals of the day, this is going to be a little boring, but every time I get roped into the sea theme, pun intended, it just seems like it's always these crystals because they have to do with the ocean. So I'll tell you, this is like one of my favorite ones of all time is the Orca Agate. Looks like a nice orca coming up out of the ocean, right? So that's going to be one of them. Oh, this is interesting patterning. This also even reminds me of one of those heads of Rapa Nui or Easter Island, like sticking up out, just a portion of the head sticking out. And this side reminds me of those intricate carvings on the back side of one of those heads or statues, quote unquote, right? But anyway, so the energy of the orca comes back because they are in the Pacific Ocean. And then I'm going to show this one again. It's also beautiful because it's total ocean energy. Sorry if I don't have a lot of glare on it. Is the ocean calcite and let's see, or Caribbean calcite, either way you want to say it. It reminds of the gridded sand in there and the swirling ocean foam. And it's, you know what, it reminds me of another one, another crystal, but I can't think of the name right now. Anyhow, so that's the energy of that. And then as per usual, I think I will close this up with just a couple cards this time. I did pre-shuffle and pre-select just because there's like a lot on my table and there's a lot I'm trying to manage. So I just, connect in and just say whatever is for all of our best and highest good and of what we need to hear today. Sarah, I forgot to say welcome, Sarah. I don't know if I said it earlier. And she says, thank you, Varleigh. Thank you, everyone. Love crystal. Never boring. Always beautiful. Thanks. Yeah. The crystals are just so beautiful. So now today's drawing is coming from a guide to the Mermaid Tarot because, of course, ocean theme. And I'm just going to say the numbers. And then when you hear my voice, yeah, the Sugar Seas, I love that at work. It's just so beautiful. Supposedly it comes only from Madagascar. Again, I kind of would question that. Do we think that's true? Does it, what does the truth detector say? Does it feel like it only comes from Madagascar? And then if it truly only does, then what's up with that, right? Madagascar is another interesting place on the earth. Maybe that'll pop up next week too. All right, so I'm just going to say the numbers 1, 2, or 3, and that will be your deck if something called to you there. And I'm going to make it kind of quick. I am going to read the book because this is an unusual, like some descriptions coming from this book. And they're going to be nice messages, of course, but let's go for it. So number 1 is Page of Pentacles. So I'm going to just zoom in and let you see this very happy image. Page of Pentacles. Look what we got going on. We've got like a fairy energy or water nymph energy. Of course, pentacles are coins. So we're thinking like nice abundance there. Rainbow energy, all good and happy here, it looks like. And then, you see that's a mer boy, so mermaid kid, Page of Pentacles. And actually, I wonder if it'll work. No, I was going to try to just prop it up as I read the book. But anyway, let's see what they have to say about this card. And we'll go from there. Yeah, I want to read that because I never really read straight from this book. But I will just say if that's not a lucky, happy card that you picked, I don't know what is. So good things ahead. Golden energy, like pirate treasure, right? So here, bear with me. I got to put the flashlight on this book over here. Okay, I'm just going to read this straight up. So it's the Minor Arcana. And what do they say? Okay, do you remember how you used shiny things to bounce light when you were a child? You used glass, silver trays, mirrors, anything that would send the sunlight back onto something else and create a sunspot or rainbow. I remember my own children discovering this trick in much the same way as the young page. Realizing they could make rainbows on purpose was a true joy to my children. To see that they could use one thing and deliberately create a desired result would leave them with huge smiles on their faces. In this card, the young page also looks pretty happy with himself, as he has just realized that given the right set of conditions, he can create something at will. So another little message here is creation is meant to be fun. You are meant to play and explore and see how things work together. Here with the Page of Pentacles, you are getting permission to simply play, to use what's around you and see what might result. Just like this page in the card, you may find you will be happily surprised to find that you can create something you want on purpose. So that's true. So much of the time we feel like things are out of our control, and we're told, like in the spiritual circles, hey, it's all within you, go within. I know I've said that too, but it is true because everything begins and ends with us. We are the Alpha and the Omega in terms of we are the completed circle. And like I talked about earlier, that divine spark comes through each and every one of us as we push out through the stargate or the portal or the womb into this world. So that's all within us. So I like this. And this book, if you don't know this deck, it has colored images. So, really nice extra, beautiful messages. You've got the world in your hands and that golden moment of creation, and definitely have fun with it. We get too bogged up in like feeling powerless or, oh, I can't do that. Sure, we can do a lot. So go do it and have fun with it. All right, that's group 1. Group 2 is a little bit strange, the way the book is talking about this. So I might kind of just read an excerpt from it. Sometimes we agree with what's in the book, sometimes we don't. Oh, and Sugar says sweet and great message. Thanks. All right, so group number 2, and you can pick 1, 2, 3, or all of them, or any combination of them. It's just whatever you feel like. You can listen to them first and decide later. This is number 11 or 2, the High Priestess. This is an interesting card since we're, again, taking this from a mermaid deck. So she is in all her glory on a very rocky shore here. She's obviously creating some magic there. Let's see. And with the moon behind her. And let's see what this one says. This one gets into kind of does move it into a magical kind of sorceress direction. I don't know that I want to read the whole thing, but maybe I will. Let me see this again. Let me see how it hits me now. I picked these shortly before the show, so let me just see. Well, you know what? It's a little weird, but I think I'll read it. Well, let's just go all in, and then you decide what you want from it. And again, I'm only about light and positive and good stuff, nothing dark. So let's just see what they say. Okay, it's Major Arcana. They're showing the number also on the page of the book in case this matters to anyone. It's number 27 or 9. So the High Priestess sees all. though sometimes that is just as much of a curse as it is a blessing. As she works alone at her altar, she understands that magic always comes with a price. And I'm not sure, about this whole thing, so just bear with me. We'll get to a better message at the end of it. When you ask the sea for something, you must give something in return. What are you willing to give? Calypso knows that the less you give, the less you get in return. That big vision you hold deep inside of you will cost you and might even break you. Do you want it anyway? As the goddess works, she cares not about your fears, doubts, and concerns. She already sees that which you cannot. But be careful when you summon her, because she's going to expect you have already read the terms of the deal and will be waiting for your payment. They also say when the message here, according to them, the book, when the high priestess shows up in your reading, you can be assured the universe knows all your thoughts, feelings, dreams, goals, and fears. There's no hiding the truth from her, for she only deals with the energy of your soul. Don't expect her to tell you anything at all, however. She may see all, but she knows experience speaks louder than words. So I say it's a little funny, this whole, kind of their take on this with the card, and I'm not really in alignment with it at all. So the only reason why I read that was more in keeping of like these nautical stories and, things that you hear from the sea and the ocean. This kind of moves into the direction of those Disney movies, the remakes with the Pirates of the Caribbean. And it goes a little bit in a dark kind of sorcery direction that I don't like. So I'm going to reinterpret this message and just say that what I do like about the message is a reminder to me is the little line about, and I'm not using it in the terms of a high priestess seeing it. I'm using this now in the terms of God or your divine team, that everything is seen. So God knows your heart, so to speak. Any worry, fear, that part is right. Like God does already see it, knows what you want or would ask for even before you do, type of thing. And so this, I would just say, is more of a call to get in touch and alignment with yourself and with what is true versus what is illusion. And know that if you can do that, that's where the real magic happens. It's just get into alignment and just know that there is a bigger loving field and force that knows our deepest wishes, really does. And it's more of our catching up with that knowledge that something already knows that and is ready to give that to us, more so than us needing to ask for anything or feeling in lack. And I don't agree with this passage as far as like you must, give and then receive in measure. I think I'm going to reinterpret this message more as just being as, yes, there is something to a magic to giving and receiving. So if we just give, and someone wants to give to you and you go, oh, no, it's okay, I'm good. You're blocking somebody's flow of gifting in, assuming it's a nice gift and with good intention and with love behind it, nothing crazy. So it's just a reminder too that, just as the straps and scraps of her robe or whatever are billowing and swirling around, it's a reminder to let that energy swirl and flow. Don't be something just trying to block it, again, especially if you want harmony and something good to flow around and to be received. Nothing with bad energy. So it's a little bit of a weird card, but I think it got us to a good place. And again, also with this one too, it's kind of like everything begins and ends with us. However, we must remember to keep the balance, the push and the pull and the flow. Just like the moon in that card, we've got the pulling, push and pull with the tides that rise and go down. And again, allow that to happen. Don't put a stick in the spoke of the wheel, so to speak. All right, that's all I'm getting for that one. A little strange, but hey, isn't life isn't life these days for everybody? All right, now we get to group number 3. So if that's you, you've got Queen of Cups. And in this deck, this is what it looks like. It's pretty interesting. If it will kind of settle down there. So here we go. Queen of Cups. Let's see what she's up to. She's holding a golden chalice. So we'll look to the book first, and then we'll see if we need to realign that a little bit differently if it's a weird one, but I think it'll be okay. I think I skimmed it quickly to see what we were into. All right, let's see what we got. Group 3, the Queen of Cups. In the beginning was a goddess, Namu, through whom all things were made. From the sea, she birthed the heavens so she could look at the stars. As the goddess settled into her watery home, she knew the world that she had created would be constant work, never truly complete, and always in need of new and exciting creations. Each year, Namu swirls her magical chalice and gives life to more of the world. Her sea-encrusted crown concentrates her power and allows her to see creation within her mind's eye first, and then feel it like a living thing as it makes its way through her fingertips. As her power infuses the seawater from her chalice, it bubbles and foams, rising up out of the depths of the ocean and into the air above, where it is transported across the waves and on the breeze to create the vision that once only the goddess could see. Another message is, life force energy flows. It moves through all living things like a wave. Sometimes it is gentle and calm, and other times it is crashing against us like it is trying to propel us out of our bodies. The Queen of Cups has a few tricks up her sleeve, or more to the point, in her cup, to teach you about how to deal with this ever-flowing energy. She wants to, page turning. All right, almost done. She wants to tap you into your intuitive feeling center and show you how to work the controls. She knows that if you learn her lesson well, you won't find yourself wrecked along the rocks anymore. Okay, well, similar message to the last pile as far as getting in touch with your inner self and aligning. And so you can see things clearly and create them clearly. So seeing things in your mind's eye first and then feeling it and bringing it to life. And all of this actually is really in alignment with the notion of the mana that we were talking about, the life force at Rapa Nui. The living force of all things. And we did mention Star Wars always seems to make its way into my shows. That In Search of came out, that the Easter Island show of In Search of came out right after Star Wars came out. And when they talk about the force, that living thing that connects all living things, that force, that thing that can't quite be named, but absolutely felt, right? So just get in touch with the feelings. But first, see whatever you want in your mind's eye and then really feel it into existence, right? Just a little reminder for that, maybe to play around with that. All right. Well, I think there's a reason why I don't use this deck too much as far as like reading from the book. Usually, this is the back of the cards, by the way. I usually like to kind of interpret it on my own, but this time I went the other way around. Take it or leave it. Hopefully got something out of it. All right. Well, unless anybody has anything else to chime in on, I will actually have a lot building up for next week's show, which is going to be really interesting. So do stay tuned in the post section because I'm going to just kind of drop things as I'm finding them and researching toward the show. And in the meantime, I hope all of you are doing great out there. And I guess nobody else is popping up with anything. So until next time, and again, feel free if anything, got you inspired about anything, feel free. You can always shoot me an email, or if you have anything to add for the upcoming show. I will say I'm looking into the shape of the manta ray, the stingray, plus a lot of aspects about them, how they may also tie into the actual Bermuda Triangle or Polynesian Triangle. We're talking Atlantis, East Coast, West Coast, Atlantis, and Lemuria. And I'll be looking into perhaps, or any of these islands, these triangular shaped islands, could they be tied into some type of technology or even craft, either underneath it, or is it petrified? I don't know. I'm kind of being led that, hey, there might be something there. Oh, so thank you, everyone in chat. Thanks for being here. If you're finding this, on the replay. Oh, SKR, welcome. It says, thank you. Thank you. Rita says, thank you, Varleigh, for another great live. I hope everyone has a good week. Hey, you too, friend. Sugar seas, hearts, and magical things to all of you. And I wish you all tremendous peace and love. Ahoy, mateys. Till next time. Big love to all of you. Bye.